Welcome to Pallilo Points. I'm Brandon Stranger, sports map Houston. That's Charlie Pallilo. He's live from Chicago covering the ALDS for us. You can catch him weekdays 10 to noon on his show, The Charlie Pallilo Show, on ESPN 97.5 by 92.5. And hey, while you're here watching us, please hit like on the video, subscribe to the channel, click that bell for notifications, and comment below so we can interact with you. Charlie, welcome in. The Houston Texans, they had what I'll call politely an eventful game, and it ended how it ended. So let's get into that postmortem and more so the implications. Specifically, I want to talk about kind of the tale of two tapes, coaching and quarterback play. We'll get into quarterback play in just a second, but let's start with David Culley. In week 2 versus the Browns, we saw Culley decline a penalty that would have gotten the Texans an additional opportunity on third down. Sunday versus the Patriots, it was any number of calls, whether the fake punt that turned into a real punt that was a 0-yard net, or accepting a penalty that allowed the Pats to run down the clock at the end of the game. David Culley, by all accounts, seems to be a really cool guy that everyone likes to a man. But at this point, he is in way over his head as a play caller and a coach. And predictably so, right? Because he's only ever been an assistant. Caserio didn't go hire an experienced coordinator that was ready to take the next step, or some young unknown analytics whiz who was going to coach by an algorithm. He basically hired the opposite of that. So Charlie, I'm going to don my full tinfoil hat here, and I'm going to ask you, is Culley's poor decision-making in critical moments more of a feature than it is a bug?
Yeah, I don't think it's designed that he was hired to be a screw up on the bench, to be a jovial Bill O'Brien. When it comes to in-game strategy, more weeks than not, at least one very sore thumb sticking out. But the reality is the Texans at this point are an expansion team level roster. When actual expansion teams start, and there have been notable exceptions, but very rarely when the expansion team actually gets good, is the head coach, or in baseball, the manager of the team when it was an expansion team, have that job when that rolls around. So I think most people think that David Culley's the amiable placeholder, that he's a pleasant face and voice for the franchise going forward. What's in it for him? For a guy who'd never even been a coordinator, never been the head coach of a Pop Warner team, to my knowledge. Hey, he's getting a shot to push a few buttons and pull a few strings and certainly fund his retirement years at a much higher level than any job he's ever had before. But if he looks to be playing checkers when some others are playing chess, well, he's never had a chessboard before, so we shouldn't expect grandmaster maneuvering from him. And again, there's the big picture. Lose, lose, lose. It's basically the overall game plan and in the Texans' better interest. So if David Culley, quote unquote, loses a game or two for them, I'm not suggesting it should get him subtle coach of the year consideration, but good for him, or at least good for the Texans. This is where they're at.
Well, one of the interesting variables in all this is the quarterback position. Davis Mills outperformed Mac Jones on Sunday and actually had a better game against the Patriots than Tom Brady did the week before. So what did you see out of Davis Mills this week?
It's an encouraging week. I mean, to anoint him as the Texans have their quarterback of the future would, of course, be silly. But there was at least meaningful progress. Not that it would have taken any off of the Buffalo game specifically, but give him a full season's worth of audition. I see no reason to go back to a healthy Tyrod Taylor. Give Davis Mills all this OJT and build your database on him. And man, it's increasingly looking like the top of the quarterback class for 2022. Right, dump all Spencer Rattler stock you still might have. Sam Howell at North Carolina. Would you really consider taking a quarterback out of Liberty, number 1 in the draft? Malik Willis might be the name crossing more draft Nick's lips for consideration now than any other quarterback. So go with Mills. See if you're thinking if he can at least be a placeholder quarterback with maybe, mid-tier starting quarterback potential, which isn't the goal and typically doesn't chart you a path towards Super Bowl contention. But the Texans should not feel backed into a corner that we have to take a quarterback atop the 2022 draft. If it would clearly be a gross reach.
One of the interesting storylines that before the game was Anthony Miller being cut, and by his account, no incident there. And then we saw Charles Omenihu, who is a healthy scratch for the game on Sunday. What do you make of these puzzling roster moves by Caserio and the Texans?
Nothing that's a grave setback to the building program, but it's a couple notable early oopsies for Nick Caserio. The Shaq Lawson contract where they traded a draft pick and then restructured and guaranteed him money and moved some cap money into the future, and then you wind up dumping the guy. Anthony Miller, granted, it was a late-round draft pick, but you gave up a late-round draft pick. It's escaping my mind. It's all the deep dish pizza leaking into my brain. They did it with another player, too, that they gave up a 5th or 6th round draft pick. You know, I'm not suggesting they gave up Tom Brady, taken in the 6th round, or the next Terrell Davis, who was taken in the 6th round. But to crumple up 5th and 6th round draft picks and throw them into the garbage, basically, that's not good business. So Caserio, maybe he's getting his mulligans out of the way early, but he's certainly not wowing with the early personnel moves, but at least is very early, and I've been calling this his redshirt year. But none of this stuff's acceptable, or at least he should be roasted for it if similar happens starting 2022. Houston Texans football. At least we're not the Lions. Marketing slogan rest of the year.